Good morning. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Apologies for my delays. The internet's running really slow here on YouTube. So welcome all of you. I'm very excited to talk with you a little bit more about today's show. Specifically, this is our Natural Health News live show. For all of you new, welcome. I'm Dr. Melissa Gallagher, and I'm a naturopathic physician. And one of my core specialties is helping balance an individual's body and creating a balance in between multiple systems and healing those imbalances. Sometimes there are situations like a viral invasion or a fungal or yeast imbalance. So today we're actually going to talk about two really hot topics that a lot of you have written to me, asked questions, and even voted on. We're going to talk about shingles, any of the herpes pox viruses, and Epstein Barr virus, because those are underlying health conditions that can impair and weaken your immune system as it relates to the current pandemic virus we're all dealing with. So good morning to all of you. We've got Rachel and Marina and JP Soso and Pao and Candy's Girl and Monica and Car69Z and Jacques Priez in Sacramento and Lorraine in London. Welcome all of you. So today we're going to have the same type of format. I'm going to introduce some news in the world of the virus. There's quite a bit of news and information I'm going to share. I'm also starting to get information and start to prepare for when our clinic goes back online, which might not be for a few months, but we're starting to gather our supplies, and there are some requirements that very mild requirements required by the state. So I'm going to share some of that information with you, as well as a whole bunch of links and resources. So welcome all of you joining. Comment down below and let me know if our current topic about shingles, herpes simplex 1 or 2 outbreaks, and Epstein Barr virus is close to you in terms of you might experience this currently or have had outbreaks or the experience with this particular virus. Because a lot of the antivirals that we're going to use in supporting your body and healing those often pesky, hard to manage, hard to heal viruses, that can actually set you up for a healthier, stronger immune system. So let me know, let me just kind of get a sense of who all we have on our community. I am drinking, not caffeine this morning, but out of my quarantine and caffeine cup, I'm drinking my stress suppressed tea with rhodiola and holy basil, because I'm definitely feeling it. We're on week 8 here. And for any of you who follow my Facebook group, which I hope you'll join, it's the Natural Health Resources Community over on Facebook. Later, after the show, I'm going to post something I posted on my personal Facebook page about parents literally being broken by balancing homeschooling and their professional lives at home. So we are all social distancing experts. I've got my Etsy shirt on here, and I have links for all of you on YouTube down below, so you can grab those. And it seems like YouTube is buffering a bit, so that might be some of the delays we're experiencing. All right, so we definitely have a lot of folks with shingles and EBV. And if you've had a risk, so this will be impactful, and these would be items that I'm going to recommend. These are really potent homeopathics that I combine with some very powerful herbals to have on hand if you have an outbreak to immediately employ. So let's dig into some news. Yesterday, we hit 3 million cases of the virus in the world. These are only cases that obviously have been tested. So that's very important. I have to apologize. Our neighbor has his lawn crew out, so it's going to be loud for you guys on Instagram. The US also hit 1 million cases. So we are seeing New York inching up to 300,000 cases. And we also are seeing Massachusetts moving up even further at 50. Illinois has moved up 1,000 cases. So that's something to notate. I want to talk to you a little bit about the difference between testing capacity versus testing supplies, because there's a lot of confusion. And I want to clear this up, because not everybody who wants to get tested is getting tested. The way this is working is that we have a lot of challenges in the testing supplies, from the little swab that is in the testing kit, to the plastic little pieces, to the labels, to the little cotton balls. Those items are missing, and that's the manufacturing supply chain meltdown. Because we don't have enough testing supplies, it doesn't matter if we have a million testing sites and testing locations and companies, and I'm going to share with you some companies who've come on board to do testing. If they don't have the testing kits, they can't do tests. So it doesn't matter. Capacity doesn't mean anything. The testing supplies, the kits themselves, that quantity is what professionals and experts are saying. We need to be testing 1 million to 2 million a day, not weekly, but we don't even have the capacity. We don't even have the supply level. So that, I want to really clear that up, because we are seeing Walgreens and CVS, these drugstore kind of retail facilities starting to come online. They'll come online in May. And the big question mark is, they come online, they're part of the testing capacity, but where are we at with supplies? Because they could be online and they could have their, nurses on staff be available, but there's no kits. And so we have people who need tests, but no kits. It doesn't matter who all is online. But Walgreens and CVS now are gearing up in May to offer tests. Walgreens specifically will do drive-through type of tests, and they'll continue to do the nose swab. CVS is looking at testing, self-testing, and there's a lot of dispute right now as to the accuracy of some of these. There were 45 different vendors that have passed through the FDA, and third parties are starting to analyze the efficacy of these tests, and a lot of them are failing in terms of producing false negatives. So that's just something to be really conscious of, as we quickly try and roll these things out. They haven't even been third-party tested. So that could create a sense of false expectations, a false sense of hope that you're negative, but you really are, that was a false negative. So just, be aware of that. I want to talk to you about Georgia. So Georgia is one of the kind of the guinea pig, if you will, of states to roll out. Now, yesterday, restaurants are open, and I did a quick little drive around our 4 or 5 mile radius that we are in. Partially because Brian's like, you need to drive your car. You haven't driven it. We don't want to have, the gas sitting and all of that. So I kind of moved my car like you move your body. And I cruised through our usual areas, and Publix was jamming. The massage place at the Publix Center was open. All the nail salons, the Brazilian wax place, the cleaners. I don't even know how they've qualified, but if you need to get dry cleaning done, they're open. And basically every restaurant, from the pizza place to the Mexican restaurant, and they're even advertising inside seating for many that don't have outdoor seating. I did see multiple groups of people coming out of the nail salons and the massage facilities not wearing masks. So that's just concerning, or it's very concerning to me as I look at this. But I want to share with you, the University of Washington's been kind of managing this model. And the modeling is based on outbreaks and temperatures and things like that, where they kind of analyze, okay, our countries or cities, states, counties at plateauing, where are they in that? And the University of Washington has put out that the new model lasts, every week, every day, they're updating these models. Last week, the model predicted that there'd be 67,641 deaths here in the US. Well, with the last week, with more social movement, only 22 to 26% of people are actually staying put. The new model has jumped up the death toll up to 74,000, which is giving us some indication that there might be some peaks. Now, fast forward to Georgia. So Georgia's really rushed and implemented a rollout that, to be honest with you, as a purveyor of personal care, intimate medical engagements with individuals, the requirements that we need are quite great. We need protective gear, PPE, for our professionals. need to be monitoring the temperature of both customers, patients, and employees. And the Georgia Commissioner of Public Health made a statement yesterday. She said, and I had highlighted that the U.S., the federal government, rolled out this reopening plan. And there was this first phase that all cities, counties, and states had to hit gating, meaning they had to meet certain criteria where they were seeing at least 2 weeks of a decrease in cases. And that was really big. So she says, we didn't meet fully the gating criteria, but we met several of them. And we were reaching a plateau of cases here. And that's the reasoning behind opening Georgia. It's insane. So I have materials and supplies on order. And I posted some of those to you all. I've scored some discount codes through some of my networking and my business professional affiliations. The challenge here is that there are limited supplies. A lot of these we're ordering in from other countries and other warehouses as they come online. So some of these pieces are going to take a little bit of time, but we are preparing ourselves for our clinic reopening. Now, to the note of Georgia, so based on the University of Washington and other models, they've looked at the modeling, and again, the Department of Health, or the Commissioner of Georgia's Public Health Department, she's even identified we haven't even hit a plateau in Georgia, and yet we're opening. So, we've completely negated this whole procedures of reopening safely. So with that being in mind, the models say that Georgia technically should not be reopening until June 27th. It's April 28th here. And by the way, Brian has a birthday tomorrow. So I'm going to be celebrating quarantine birthday for him. So it's really crazy. And I just put that out there because just note, as we are kind of the guinea pig, other states are following suit pretty quickly. And I think it's important that you have tools and you have resources to measure for your own sake. Maybe you are business professionals as well, trying to decide when do we open up shop in the physical setting. And I've pivoted. We have a digital business it's already established, luckily. But there are, my heart went out to all of these places that were open. Some of my places that I frequent, they're not open. But I look at it, and these are desperate times for these owners, and they are forced to open because they don't have the bandwidth to stay closed. And that's a challenge. So let's talk about some other news. LA is expanding testing. They are now going to be testing all the delivery drivers. So, our Uber Eats, our Instacart, our Shipt drivers. FedEx, I believe, is included in that, UPS. I'd love to see our mail carriers tested as well. The ride shares and taxis, because a lot of people are taking those. They're frontline workers taking people to doctor's appointments and whatnot. So they're expanding the testing, and that, again, you can be asymptomatic and be tested. Now the CDC had released, and I have to be honest with you, I'm sorry, I missed it. Last week they released some details about social distancing, and a few lines in it were recommendations in terms of pet social distancing. And you guys know we have 3 dogs. Daisy kept escaping her e-collar wasn't working. She got really smart, figured out that she could just sail over the fence, and she is part border collie. And so she can scale literally like a horse, jump over our 4.5-foot tall fence. So she was doing that every day and not social distancing and meeting our local friends and running after deer and wanting to get on trampolines with kids. And so we're very cognizant also. Our other dog has roped in every neighbor. We touched 7. We have this weird pie-shaped backyard. We touched 7 neighbors, and she's roped in at least 4 of the neighbors to throwing her the ball. And they always pet her, and like the kids, there's tons of them. They come running over, and it makes me nervous because that, again, is not social distancing. And I also don't know, the family's whereabouts and stuff. So The CDC has actually recommended that if you're out walking your dog, to social distance your dog, not just from humans, but other dogs, other cats. And they have some guidelines in terms of if you do test positive for COVID-19, they have recommendations on how to care for your pet. And it is to minimize and avoid the the viral cross from human to the dog or human to the cat, or any animal. We've seen tigers and lions, like we're talking about maybe getting a guinea pig when things are for Gabriel. Guinea pigs would qualify, ferrets, potentially birds. Just one of those things we just have to be really cognizant. So they say, wash your hands, wash your dog's paws, and then also be very careful. Don't share food with them. And some other guidelines. So just be aware that there is more communication about pet social distancing. So Lisette, I'm not quite sure what the question is. So you're not supposed to be near your children, husband doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. Okay, so and here's the one thing that I want to highlight for everybody who's against quarantine. First of all, we're not losing any rights. We still have lots of rights in our world. The thing that we are challenged with, going back to lack of testing, we don't know who's asymptomatic and who's not. There are perfectly healthy, perfectly symptom-free individuals, positive, walking around potentially infecting people. So NW Fury Fan, quarantine is for the sick, not for the healthy. Open it all up ASAP. Well, I'm sorry, that's just not valid, because you don't know if you're sick. You don't know if somebody you're going to encounter at Trader Joe's or out at the dog park or out at your vet's office or your doctor's office is positive, because we don't have testing, so we don't know. So the big question mark that we all have about each other and our society is the challenge. You want to resolve opening up, we need to have more testing, plain and simple. And because of that, we have models showcasing the challenge with the lack of testing. We don't have any substantial methodology. And Georgia is completely violating the federal recommendation and guidelines for rolling this out. It's absolutely absurd. And while I'm all for getting business going, people like myself and other individuals, many of you who watch our channel and subscribe to the same thought process of using intelligence, intellect, science, data, and research, and not fear-mongering tactics by any means. We use science and data to make calculated decisions. Calculated decisions have to be substantiated with information. And at this point, the US doesn't have enough information. So that is my argument. I'm a business owner. At the end of the day, I would love to get back and see and work with people in a face-to-face community. And as a home parent, a homeschooling mom, I am losing my mind having to homeschool my kid. It is very challenging. I'm not meant for this. But to keep my family safe and our community at large safe, we're going to suck it up and we're going to stay hunkered down until the data looks promising. We get better testing in our area, and we have a plateau. If you are not in a state, county, city that is in a plateau yet, it's not safe. And when you think about it, when we went into lockdown in March, and I say lockdown loosely, we didn't go into lockdown, but we went into stay-at-home orders, some more specific than others. But we had fewer cases than Georgia has collectively, and we went into this mode. And yet we're now here, and because of the desire to get the economy back up, we're willing to take sacrifices for public health and public safety. I just can't get behind that. I'm sorry. That is doing harm. So, and I'm okay, Pat, I'm okay with people disagreeing. It's totally fine. We don't have to delete them, but I do have to address the nonsense. And if you don't agree, I'm totally fine with that. You can, log off, you can unsubscribe, but I am here to tell you the truth, statistics, data, and science, founded facts. I'm not going to hypothesize. I'm not going to spew some sort of crazy conspiracy theories into this note. So let's dig into people who are protesting. So in North Carolina, and there are multiple states protesting, the leader of the protesting, so on the 14th of April, that was 2 weeks ago. So we know the incubation period could be anywhere from 7 to 9 to 15, 14 days. The leader of the protesting in North Carolina announced on Sunday on her Facebook page that she tested positive and has COVID-19. And she refuses to acknowledge or admit or state whether she was having symptoms at the time of her protesting. And we know for sure she was not wearing a mask and protecting other people. So the big question mark is, how many did that one individual come into contact with and infect? And we now are seeing there's liability. People are getting sued. Cities and facilities like nursing home providers are getting sued. Countries are getting sued. There's a personal responsibility to the public health and safety of not just yourself and your families, but your community. I guarantee there will be some lawsuits against this woman. She has since removed, apparently, the report that I read, she's removed the notation that she was, she claims that she's asymptomatic, and there was a lot of backlash to that. So, so it's pretty crazy. All right. So Peacefully Happy says, I'm so happy that you're sharing all of this. I'm fed up with people saying it's a hoax and talking about conspiracy theories. I feel just the same as you with my family and my health. I mean, the thing is, and I see 2009 BI. Homeschooling is ridiculous. It's not full-time. It's not school. When parents have to teach, print, and stand behind the child. Yeah, that is us. We have a 4.5-year-old who, we are not behind just putting him in front of a tablet and having that be the babysitter. We're about experiences, getting out and being engaging and connecting. And so this whole thing, he can't set up Zoom. He has Google, there's Zoom meetings, there's Google Hangouts for the circle time. They do circle time, which is like chaos. And then he has individual instructions. And we have a private school, so we are paying for this service. We definitely get probably more than the public schools that I'm hearing here locally. But it's pretty crazy. Z times, you need to have a lawsuit against yourself. I'm not sure what that means. Okay, so social distancing is difficult, and that's why I'm wearing this shirt. I mean, it definitely is going to, it's pushing on everybody. Okay. And everybody, our angst, we're getting high. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the stress. I get it. And people get angry. I totally understand it. But the thing is that it is not a hoax. And while it might not be the most deadly of pandemics, because, there's more and more data, more and more research, it is highly contagious. It might not be the most highly contagious because, again, we're in it. We don't have the data of a 2020 foot perspective, 2020 hindsight. We don't even know we're in the throes of it. And states like Georgia haven't even hit a plateau. We're on the incline. And, they are not following federal guidelines. And it is a part of a problem. Okay, so Cupcake, yeah, okay. So, all right, let's dig into some more info. New Zealand, quite strict in terms of their social distancing. They're saying that they've currently eliminated the virus. There have only been 5 new cases. They're slowly opening up the country. And I think this is really interesting. Jacinda, the prime minister, she said, we are going to be opening up the country, but not social lives. So economically, they're putting forth the right social plans and social distancing. But what is not opening up are people hitting the beaches, but it's the southern hemisphere, so they're moving into winter. It's fall there. We have to separate that. There's the economics, and then there's the social aspect, and we can have safety of the social aspect and health around that while opening up the country. And I think we need to look at some of these models of what worked. They were really clear on locking down and have minimized that explosion. They have lots of testing. I think yesterday the report was, well, we're going to look at testing only 2% of our population. Populations that are testing 40 and 50%, like other countries in the Middle East and other countries in Asia, they've tempered the growth. If we don't get testing done, this could continue on for a lot longer than we all want. And, that does make me nervous. Okay. So the South Korea is actually looking at guidelines to potentially open schools no later than early May. South Korea had the same day they had their first cases. We had our first acknowledged case. They only have 234 cases. We have 1 million. The way they engaged and locked down and were very specific about testing, monitoring temperatures, they did that immediately. And this is not the first time they've been at the rodeo, or whatever, the rodeo show or whatever you call it. But it was ours, and we were grossly ill prepared, and we are still ill prepared. And that is going to play into how well we get through this and how quickly we can resolve this. For any of you who are business owners like myself, really tuned into the new PPP that's open, the additional funding from Congress. The site totally crashed yesterday. Apparently the EIDL, that's not even open. So we were going to file a claim just for that. We're not going to go PPP, but can't even access that. So we kept refreshing. I've been refreshing since Friday, since it was signed, and I'm on groups and stuff like that. And it looks like more than likely there were so many applications that weren't even processed. They're processing all of those. We might not even be eligible, or not eligible, even gain access. So that's really quite a challenge. Okay, so let's dig into, I'm going to answer a few questions and then we'll dig right on into the topic here about Epstein Barr, herpes, shingles. All right, so the real Charlie Orange, what kind of numbers in America do you think we need to see to open social gatherings and all that jazz? So I tend to, on this type of stuff, I tend to be pretty conservative. So I think feasibly, if we have 3 to 4 weeks where every day we're testing 1 million individuals, and again, here's the other challenge. The CDC issued guidelines, and I highlighted the new guidelines. So if people didn't meet the 3 symptoms of, the original diagnosis of COVID, they were ineligible to get tested. So then the CDC revamped that last week. I highlighted, the 6 additional symptoms that they now list. So that was a challenge because there were a lot of people that were showing other symptoms, the COVID toes. They were maybe having clotting issues. Maybe they had a stroke. And under those conditions, they would not be eligible to be tested. So that's part of the challenge. We drug our feet with acknowledging who all could be tested. So the CDC was the guideline everybody adhered to. And now that they have a much broader scope, and they'll probably add to it, we are still in the throes of this. There's still going to be more data being collected, and we're going to see possibly other symptoms coming out. I think feasibly, we need to have 40 to 50% of our population tested. That could be some combination of, the COVID test plus antibody testing. But I think that's feasible. I just don't see that happening anytime soon. I mean, the idea of bringing CVS and Walgreens on, that should have happened in February. We should have had all of that lined up. We should have had, we knew countries knew about this in January. I mean, I reported it on my channel the last week of January. So I was tuned into this. One of the first reports, like major scientific reports, came out the 3rd week of January. We were tuned in, the officials were tuned in. CDC, World Health Organization, everybody was aware in January. At that point, we should have been placing massive orders for all of these things. So the challenge is, let's see, but can't they get the virus the next day? What does testing do? So testing helps. And this is, I was watching a company that has this new device. It's not new, but it's like a scanner device where an employer could set this up and you could have all your employees, your customers, your patients walk through it. They stand there, kind of like at the airport where you like put your hands up. It's not as crazy as that, but you just stand there and it scans everything. It gives you your pulse ox. It gives you your heart rate. It measures your temperature. And there are like 3 or 4 other things that measured. And it gives an employer, a company, an idea of, okay, is it green light or red light? Red light means you don't move forward. Green light, okay, you're okay to come in. So there's other parameters, but the thing is the testing, we do know that if an individual shows symptoms, more than likely they have had the virus at least for 2 or 3 days before that. We know that. So we know some information. So, that is one thing to be aware of. What happens in cases where the tests have become tainted? So the question, I don't know what tainted means, but I know that there were some of those like rapid tests where the test material, the clinicians were not doing it right. And so they were potentially having that issue. There will always be test-related errors. I think the challenge here is we've got a lot of tests that have been run through without all the right methodologies and approaches to make sure that these are accurate tests. Because we had fear mode and we're like, let's go, move, move, move. And so the FDA just released 45 companies, 45 different brands, different tests out into the market without the normal kind of process. We're seeing the same thing in the drug trials. Oh, Lori, thank you for the $5 super chat. Can you make a prediction on when shops will be open in Massachusetts? I cannot, but Massachusetts is in, you guys are in this mode. So until you get to this and here, that's just monitor it. But you guys you're not there yet. And if I had my clinic in Massachusetts, that's where I have my doctorate. I did my clinicals, and I talk with a lot of my friends and people I worked with up there. Nobody's in that mode. I don't think they're going to be in that mode until probably August, September. All right. Thanks, everybody. People were getting sick on ships. Doctors had no explanation what they're getting sick on. There's an interesting, you guys follow the Washington Post. You have to pay like a certain amount for a year to gain access to all their stuff. But they actually posted a really interesting video model. I actually want to say it's on YouTube. Excuse me. And it shows like the tracking of the ships, like from Miami down to Mexico, and like all those places, they just kind of have a circling of like all the contact and all those ships that had positive tests and where we're seeing the outbreak. Miami-Dade's a big outbreak center, and it's possible that was ship oriented. That was kind of where it was derived. Anaga, Dr. Melissa, are you able to find which antibody tests are correct or legitimate? I think that's still playing out. I mean, honestly, those have not been rolled out publicly in any extensive way. So we'll just have to see. Can you please get to the pertinent info? Okay. Come on, everybody. Let's just be patient. This is engaging. This is a live show. I'm going to answer questions. Let's see. Are you serious? Well, thanks for telling me the truth, friend. Unfortunately, my senior year is over because people are not following guidelines. I'm sorry. And I know we have a lot of younger students on. Just take a deep breath and know that you'll be able to make up the memories. And in this time frame, have fun with it. I have a friend down in Tallahassee, her daughter and her friends, they all hired a photographer and they went to a big park. And they were well social distance, but they all got dressed up and they had photos of their prom dresses. And I've even seen videos of, kids dancing with their dads and doing prom night in a social distancing format. I know it sucks, but it'll be okay. Your health is so much more valuable than what you're missing. I promise you. It doesn't seem like that, but we'll be okay. Okay, so let's dig into specifically virus, particularly pesky viruses like the herpes virus. And shingles is in the pox virus category. Shingles is really common, and it's common. Traditionally, we see folks, I'm going to say traditionally, but it really isn't. I see individuals in their 20s with shingles all the way up to their 80s and 90s. Mentally, our kind of perspective or thought process about shingles is people in nursing homes get shingles, but that's not true. If you've had exposure to chickenpox, there's the chance and likelihood shingles could manifest. Now, if there is a shingles outbreak that you've dealt with, it can be extremely painful and it can be around for a long time. Some of my patients I have get it on their face, they get it on, on their eyelids. I have others that get it on their side and their chest. I have others that get it on their arms, their legs, their back, sometimes over the whole entire area, the back side and lower torso. It is often triggered by stress. And so this time, we have a lot of people under stress and duress. And if you are experiencing this, I want to share with you some things that you can take. These are all in the same category. If you have a herpes outbreak, and this could be HSV1, HSV2, despite what a lot of people think, HSV2 is the genital herpes, but you can have those anywhere around your body. And a lot of times the lips, the mucosal membrane, the lips, and then even the sensitive areas for ladies, the vulval folds, and even, in the lower pubic region, men and women. But also you can have those appear in other areas of the body. But most of the time, that's where we see those. So I'm going to share with you some protocols and recommendations that I share with my patients. If there is a shingles outbreak, the first thing you want to reach for is apple cider vinegar. You can, depending on the space and the size of it, you could soak, a cotton ball, grab a cotton ball and, soak it thoroughly in apple cider vinegar and, kind of pat down that area that might have the outbreak. If it's quite broad, I usually recommend like cutting a hand towel or using a rag, soak that liberally in apple cider vinegar and just have that on and soak that on. Same thing with the any herpes outbreak. If it's on the lip, a little cotton ball and a little dabbing. The apple cider vinegar has this amazing ability to change the pH of the skin, and it has a very enhanced healing process. So that actually can eradicate the extent and the length of that festering. Most of my patients will describe there be a tingling, a nervy pain, an aching. They'll even sometimes experience swollen lymph nodes, have kind of cold and flu season types of symptoms. And the big thing are swollen lymph nodes. Up here underneath the chin, in the armpit, we have a whole series of lymph nodes. They'll be usually fired up. They'll get really large. Sometimes, depending on the size of the person, you can visualize them and they will be hard like a walnut. That's the lymph system, the immune system responding. In the lower region, if there is any type of lesions or herpes or shingles in the lower torso, including the legs, the inguinal nodes, those are nodes that really where the leg and the hip meet, that little space right here in the groin, those nodes will get fired up and they will get hard. And sometimes in palpating, they'll feel like a walnut or an almond, and they'll have that shape, like an almond type of shape. They get enlarged, and that's immune response. So the apple cider vinegar is the first and foremost, like that's what you want to do. You want to do that soak several times a day. Even before, if there's a tingling and you've had that experience, and it usually will come to the same spot every time, unless you transfer it, which is very highly likely. So you want to be really careful about how you are cleaning up after. I often recommend individuals use gloves when they're treating that area because there is the ability to spread it and even spread it to other individuals. So no sharing towels, cleaning any of the linens and even bed linens. Being very conscious of that because the spread is so common that actually causes it to be worse the next time. So apple cider vinegar is really key. Multiple times a day, soaking that at the very onset of the feelings and that tingly sensation, the kind of nerve, major pain. Start doing that because the outbreak will be the pox. It's like a blistery type of situation. It'll be red and it'll be blistery. So when we get into the red blistery status, what we're going to do is we are going to do two things. The herpes nosode. This is, you guys know I love professional formulas. I don't know if you guys can see that. This is in my full script store. Everything's 10% off. Most of the time, professional formulas is only going to be in professional grade clinics. If it's online on eBay, I wouldn't trust it in terms of how fresh it is. But the herpes virus number 6 nosode actually is targeted at reducing the symptom length and minimizing the outbreak. And because shingles is herpes, or shingles is a pox virus, they're all in that same category. And I include this nosode number 6, I include that with my shingles outbreaks. The other thing people can do with both of them is to do soaks in very warm, not super hot, but warm in the body temperature, like 101, 102 max. Soak in a liberal amount of Epsom salts. The sulfur is very healing to the skin. And even with a full-on outbreak or rash, the salt's actually very calming. It won't hurt, but I would soak in the water. And then when you're done, I would do another apple cider vinegar application. And then I'm going to share with you an herbal. There's several herbals I'm going to kind of go through, but the Super Lysine Plus is a powerful herbal. It's a combination of vitamin C, it has calcium, it has L-lysine, has garlic, it also has echinacea, bee propolis, and then licorice root. The garlic and the L-lysine and echinacea are very powerful, but the L-lysine is one of the magic bullets for reducing the shingles and the herpes outbreak. So this brand has the capsules. These are, and they kind of have the garlicky smell, but they're these brown capsules, and they're good immune boosters. But definitely, if this is something that runs in, your kind of every 6-month year cycle, you want to have this brand on hand. They also have a serum that you can put on. So they have lip balms. But I like the serum. I wouldn't do the lip balm because, again, the spread, you don't want to be spreading it all over. But they have a little like brownish balm that has all those ingredients topically. They also have yellow dock and some other good topical herbals. That's very, very powerful. And I'll make sure that I put the balm on the YouTube link. So they also, and it's called a cream. It's like let's see. Let me just refresh this. So the L-lysine, that lysine plus, that's very powerful at supporting that. But the other thing too, depending on certain people, especially with shingles, they will get a major, major rash. I mean, like full on red. And even when it's on the healing phase, the recommendation that I use for the, kind of once the blisters start to dry up, then we use the dry eczema drops. And these are very good for really supporting the healing. It says specifically temporary relief of dry, itching, red, and irritated skin. That's one of the challenges is sometimes as you're healing, it gets really itchy. And you want to be careful because you don't want to itch as that can spread. So that I want to highlight, this is another powerful product. So with the shingles, apple cider vinegar, you would have the Epsom salts. You'd have these 2 items in your catalog. Professional Formula is the number 6, herpes virus number 6 nosode, and then the dry eczema, plus the Super Lysine. You could also grab the Super Lysine cream. That is potent. And that is my go-to. And I will have reports of people who then are taking, particularly this nosode. This is what you would take if you want to reduce your recurrence. And I know a lot of people will take Valtrex. That's a real common one. That doesn't necessarily mean that limits your outbreak. Sometimes it does, but we need something deeper. We need something deeper that invigorates your immune system. And that's where we get with the nosode 6. We will see big, big changes in that. So I've had some of my patients that for 6 years, they're still symptom outbreak free, which is pretty phenomenal given, just how life-changing it can be in terms of how you experience the world. And some shingles outbreaks can last for weeks. Will that help if you have a high virus count in your blood count? Yeah, in your blood work. Yes, absolutely. And we do see that. So we do have the clinical data where I'll see in my practice, a lot of patients have decreases there. Critical thinker 313. I had chickenpox at 2 weeks old. Oh my gosh, you poor thing. My first outbreak of shingles was 19. My shoulders and back first time. Years later, my lower back above buttocks. My mother had it on her face, in the ear, and on her back. Oh, in the ear. Yeah, it is crazy. And we actually have some comment for MNRD. Says, okay, thanks for making me feel a little bit better. Also, I left you a comment after you left me a comment, which you have the time to reply back. Okay. So, the other thing too, like online schools, they're doing online graduation. So there's a lot of stuff that's going. Okay, so Morris and Monica, that's all. If you go to my website, Instagram is really hard. DM me and I can send you a link. I'll also post the link to this video on Instagram, and in the description box for all of you on YouTube, you can get this info. And if you like this, if you're liking this kind of information, please give me a thumbs up, hit the share button. Also, same over on Instagram. That totally helps. Okay, so let's talk about Epstein Barr. Okay, so Epstein Barr is its own category. You guys know that's what got me, for those of you who don't know this is what got me into this work. So I had this experience when I was in my early 20s. I had 2 points of exposure as a teenager, early teenage years, and then in college. We had a girl in our dorm that had a really bad case, and her younger sister had chickenpox over Thanksgiving break, and her immune system couldn't fight it, and she never returned to school. And it was quite devastating for all of us in the dorms. And fast forward on to like 4 years after that, I had probably the same type of intensity. My spleen was swollen. You can even see I had a neck. I was so swollen. I was down, literally couldn't get out of bed for days. And I've highlighted my story on YouTube, so you guys can watch that. But essentially, it's what drove me into a clinic setting with an acupuncturist, a doctor of Chinese medicine, and basically said, I really feel called to this and I want to do what you do. I've had great experiences healing. I started studying nutrition, and she's like, well, you're going to need to get a lot of science and go back to school. And so I did. And that's what kind of took over. I got a master's in nutrition and then went on for my doctorate in naturopathic medicine. So it is very, very close to my heart, Epstein Barr virus. And there are still times that I battle this, as it's an opportunist virus. It very similar to how we see any of the pox viruses. It can be in dormancy, and then it just seizes the opportunity when you are like down and out. Our current state of pandemic stress, of quarantine fatigue, this is the opportunist time that Epstein Barr really takes advantage of. And so I definitely have started to feel some of that fatigue that I am very aware of. And so I target it immediately. So what I want to do is highlight some of the things that you can do. We have talked in last week's video when I did the podcast recording. I talked a lot about Candida. There is a pairing of Candida and Epstein Barr. The virus loves to hide out in the body, and it loves to hide out in biofilms. And part of that is produced by yeast. So one of the things that's really powerful is to eradicate the yeast, but also address some of the symptoms. So this is what I use in my practice. I use the mycological immune stimulator. This is really targeted at minimizing the yeast infection and the yeast imbalances. But then it also, let me tell you some of the symptoms it can get rid of. It can get rid of any type of headaches, fatigue, irritability. Now, also, this is a very powerful current virus supporter. So this is also going to be something, if I were to have symptoms of the virus, I would be taking, because it also can alleviate any, runny nose, any respiratory challenges. It also deals with red, itchy skin. So again, this falls into some of the categories if there is any type of rash, COVID toes. shortness of breath, cough, very powerful stuff. So that is a big part of the mix. The other thing is that there's a need to really do deep immune boosting. And there's a protocol that I have, and I feel like it's out on YouTube, and I'll pull the links for you all so you can grab a little bit more about that. But we have to do really deep immune boosting. One of the things that I love to incorporate, and I may have highlighted this in one of our videos already, I'm not sure. Here it is. I love using Ayurvedics. That is what healed me. I used rhodiola, was one of like my go-tos that literally got me up and out and able to manage life. And I was at that point working. I just gotten a job promotion, had a huge breakup, and then I started traveling more for my work, and I was running like day, which was not great for my body. And then I was drinking lots of caffeine and chocolate to help me get energy. This immune support. So this is an Ayurvedic blend, and it's by something called Herbal Zap. Okay, so this is like a little kind of, they're these like little pellets, and they dissolve in water. And I do like a little warm water. I don't do cold with it. I do it warm. And the items in here, you can actually see a lot of these are Ayurvedic, Indian related herbs. You're going to get ginger, and there's going to be licorice in here, black pepper, cumin, but then there are others that are powerful. And this, in the Ayurvedic world, is great for all three body types, but it will address a lot of the immune weakness in the body. And it's really, really powerful. So this is a go-to. And I actually utilize the same kind of shingles protocol. This is another one that's in the mix for me, super lysine. And then also this particular no-sode, because I do find that I will sometimes get a little outbreak here on my lip, usually around the holidays. But, when all the like the wedding postponement, the change here, coming, back to working at home and homeschooling, I could feel it like in that first week and a half. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. And it never manifested. And that's how powerful it can be. Marina says, can you get shingles multiple times? Yes, you can. And it could be 8, 10, 20 years in between, in fact, the outbreaks. Okay, my other head, yeah. So thanks, Whitney. She says, I like your story, resonates with so many of us. Thank you so much for sharing. You're welcome. So, these packets are very, very powerful. And I love using Ayurveda. I really feel like it does balance the body quite a bit. It has all the right balancing herbals, and it can be very, very potent. So those are the tips I wanted to kind of highlight for you. There's obviously a whole lot more underlying, but the one thing I want to definitely mention about the mycological is if you have any type of yeast imbalance, that sets up for your body to be exposed to and harbor and kind of house the Epstein Barr virus. And I work with folks that have high antibody levels, might not be symptomatic, but something happens, loss of a job, change of, a house or divorce or whatever, even childbirth, you then will see that manifestation in your body. And so I know we've seen some questions about testing on that, but that is really critical. And the Epstein Barr can attack your thyroid. It can, create imbalance and dysbiosis in the adrenal glands, your thyroid gland. We'll see hormonal related imbalances. And then we also see the adrenal, neurological, biochemical imbalances in the neurotransmitters. So some of the video content I've posted here in our live shows, watch those because the stress related management, some of the other immune boosters are also going to be powerful. But I really wanted to kind of address this because you guys have asked for this specific type of content. And I wanted to make sure I covered that. So I hope that's helpful. Did you guys like this? Let me know. Give me a thumbs up, everybody on YouTube. And I am working on a date for our live hormone webinar. So that is in the works. Just want to let you know that's not been forgotten. It's just taking a little bit of time to kind of manifest. And more than likely, I will probably be switching up my schedule a little bit. And, the homeschool thing is just, it's really, really challenging. And so I think I'm probably going to spend a little bit more time on the weekends working when one of us can give Gabriel full attention, and spend a little bit less time managing the social media and content creation during the week, because I just am not feeling like I'm getting the level of production quality and attention that my content requires of me. When you have mommy, like every 2 minutes, I can't get anything done. And we have a great little boy. So I'm taking advantage of this time to spend more time with him, hone in on his schooling and his training. And so just FYI, appointments right now are not, everything's on hold. But if that does open up, I will let everybody know. So just, I appreciate all of you kind of bearing with me, being flexible as our schedule has changed just like yours, and first and foremost, family and my child come first. Try and manage the business. We pivoted a long time ago so that we could deal with something like this if this were to happen. The potential was, if we had another child, what would that look like? But, we have a pandemic. So big difference. This is a shorter lived experience than that would be. But we're all going to get through it. So the thing, friends, is to always know that the research and the data is out there. There are excellent sites where you can get tuned into the modeling. You can assess where your state, city, county is in terms of where they're at the peak. The other thing that's not a bad idea, and I've done this a few times, I've called the local hospital saying, how are you guys doing? What's your volume? Are you guys overwhelmed? And when they're saying we're overwhelmed and they're in your area, there's something going on. And, the other thing I didn't mention, and I will just mention this because it needs to be addressed. The frontliners, they are not, the degree of stress these individuals are dealing with, we're starting to see it manifest. There, unfortunately, a terrible story about an ER doctor at New York Presbyterian, one of the locations. She, was the frontliner for weeks. She caught COVID herself, recovered, and then I think just had a mental breakdown. I think also too, just the stress of everything and then battling the virus, it just was so overwhelming. She committed suicide. And we've also, and I believe that was yesterday, the day before, an FDNY EMT committed suicide. So they're not doing that from a hoax. They're not doing that from anything other than they've seen horror and trauma at a level none of them have been trained to deal with, and is not even humanly possible to process. We're going to see more of this. And when people are being stupid and saying it's a hoax and we need to open up ASAP, if your butt was in that seat and you are donning PPE and you're wearing it for, the whole freaking day, and you're baking it in your oven to desanitize it, or to sanitize it, we have a problem. And the challenge is that we need to be really cautious of how we reopen. And again, just like the stay-at-home orders, a lot of this was based on us making decisions. We still are in the driver's seat, and that's the freedom we have. You have the freedom to not go out and about just because your state is declaring, like Georgia, being really stupid. We're not even at a plateau. They've admitted that. That just is so insane. So, take that ownership, that freedom, and choose wisely and be wise with your choices. And so we are not going to be economically supporting our local economy until we feel it's safe. And that also, for me, I'm making decisions. Any of the people that I see opening right now that I feel like are making really poor decisions, I won't be frequenting those places. If they have social distancing and they put in place practices, yeah, I'll support that, but not if they're being careless and reckless, because they're not going to get my dollar. Instagram, I'll see you tomorrow. Instagram is just cutting off. So let's see, let me save that. So that's just my 2 cents. But, at the end of the day, we do have freedoms, and we have the freedom to make personal individual decisions, even when our local, actually, I think more local, local communities are making strides. But the larger governments are skewed with the data. I mean, the fact that the federal government has a particular rollout and they call it a gating process and a really nondescript has allowed for governors like Georgia's governor to roll out even when we haven't even met those measurements, as admitted by the commissioner of the Georgia Public Health Department. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen, and probably will happen, and it's going to cost taxpayers lives and more money. So, we just have to weigh our choices. But at the end of the day, we make healthy choices to keep our families healthy and safe. We do things to help support our immune systems. And in this case, if you are dealing with a lot of stress and your body is feeling run down because of your quarantine fatigue, or just feeling the height of, staying in for 6 to 8 weeks, these items will help bolster your immune system to minimize an outbreak. So, those are my tips for you. And again, this is a live show, which allows me to interact and engage and answer questions, and very different than my normal format. And I've gotten a lot of flack from folks that don't like it, and that's okay. When things go back to normal, I'll go back to, more edited videos. But at this point, it could take me a whole day to edit a video. And a lot of people don't even realize that. And I just don't have that time. Unfortunately, focused time, because editing a video, I have to go through and specifically cut out, even though I've been doing this for a while, it takes a lot of time. So, that's just is what it is. I'm being completely honest with you guys. I don't have the bandwidth scenario that we have. So anyway, let's tune in tomorrow, 9 a.m. And so it's Wednesday. It'll be Wednesday tomorrow, Brian's birthday. Woo! Excited. We love birthdays here. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. And please like and share. And if you guys haven't checked out the community tab, I've got a lot of coupons. I'm grabbing lots of coupons for things. If you guys want to get N95 masks and even the digital thermometers from afar, you can get. I'm ordering stuff for the clinic. So I'll continue to post those items with links. And by the way, I am working with Guru Nanda to get us some discounts. So stay tuned for all of you who love their items, all of their oils. So I should have hopefully something worked out in the next week. So stay tuned. All right, friends, I will see you all tomorrow. Hit the like. Thanks, everybody. And monitor the community tab where I'll post this. There's links down below. I hope you'll support my store. Fullscript is really the best way to support our channel. Amazon's really cut out their affiliate program. They've dropped all their affiliate commission fees by 80% in some cases, which is just devastating. So my store, we ship sometimes same day, depending on when you place the order, and I monitor all of that. So very, very effective. We have 2 locations where we're shipping from warehouses, and we have a customer service line. So it's extremely reliable and very powerful, and 10% off everything. So check it out. Links down below. And don't forget to grab your free antiviral checklist. I have that in the description box below as well. That gives you some additional antivirals and really powerful immune supportive supplements. All right, friends, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day. See you later.